Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani. Keshwani. We are here because we want to learn algebra. Today is our lesson number 186. Day 186, we are in the process of solving word problems from day 101 through 200. And today is our 86th day of solving a word problem. Here's the problem for today. Very straightforward, very simple question. We are asked to find two numbers whose sum is 30 and whose difference is 6. That's all. And then once we finish doing this problem, once you finish watching this video, I want you to go back and I want you to go and watch tomorrow's video for day number 187 and compare today's problem with tomorrow's problem, which is what the note is here. It says compare with day 187. That's with. This symbol means with. For those of you who do not know, this is without. This is within, and so on and so forth. There are many such symbols. Anyway, let's get going. Here's the solution. Let's pretend S is the smaller number. So we have two numbers and we are told that their sum is 30 and their difference is 6. So whatever the small number is, then the greater number is going to be 6 more because their difference is 6. So that implies that the greater number, whatever the greater number is, let's call it G, must equal whatever the S is plus 6, because we are told their difference is 6. For example, if the small number happens to be 10, then the greater number would have to be 16, because their difference is 6. We are told in the problem their difference is 6. So if small number is 10, then the large number has to be 16 because of the fact that the difference is 6. Therefore the greater number is whatever the small number is plus 6 more. If the small number happens to be 30, the large number is going to be 36 because their difference needs to be 6. If the small number happens to be 2, the large number will be 2 plus 6. You get the idea, because of the fact that the difference is 6. That's where S plus 6 is coming from, because we are calling the small number S. If the small number is S, then the large number must be S plus 6. Well, once we figure that part out, the rest is simple. The rest is very simple. So this part came from, this S plus 6 part came from this part of the information. Difference is 6. That's where this came from. Now we're going to make use of the fact that their sum is. Now we're going to make use of the fact that their sum is 30. I'm looking for a different color here. There. Sum is 30. Well, one number is small number, the other one is a large number, which is S plus 6. Small number plus the greater number G. So small number plus the greater number, small number is S, the greater number is S plus 6, and that equals 30. And that comes from there. Their sum is 30. That's it, we solved for S. We don't need this part here, let's get rid of it. So S plus S is 2 S's plus 6 equals 30. Let's subtract 6 from both sides. And we get 2 S's equals 24, and therefore S equals 12. Well, if s equals 12, then the greater number, which is s plus 6, must be 18. Well, that's it, we're done. The answer is 12 and 18. How else could we have solved this problem? This is one way to solve this problem, where we define one variable in terms of the other. If this is s, then the greater variable must be s plus 6. We are defining the greater number, g, in terms of s. Greater number is s plus 6. That's one way of solving this problem. Another way that we could have solved the exact same problem is by using a method called simultaneous equation, which is what I want to do now. I need the room, so we need to erase everything. We're just going to make a note of the fact that the answers that we have found. We found the small number to be 12. Let's make a note here. The small number was 12 and the larger one was 18. I'm going to read you the problem by using a method called simultaneous equation. The method is called simultaneous equations. In the simultaneous equation methods, we do exactly what it says here. We arrive at two simultaneous equations. We arrive at two equations. Where do we arrive at two equations from? From these two statements. First statement is that their sum is 30. The second statement is that their difference is 6. Except here, we do not define one variable in terms of the other. We have two distinct variables, small and the large. Small and the large. Here is our small variable, small numbers. Here is our large number, which I'm calling G. G for the greater, S for the smaller. I should not keep changing the terminology between large and greater. Smaller, the small, and the greater. The greater is what I'm calling G. The smaller is what I'm calling S. So their sum, the small number plus the greater number, their sum, we are told, is 30. The second equation is going to come from the second part of the statement, which is their difference is 6. So, I shouldn't have. Since we are, okay, let me show you what happens here. Their difference is 6. And how do you represent the difference between the two numbers? Typically, the convention dictates that if you're going to express the difference between two numbers, it makes a hell of a lot easier to put the large number first and then the small number. Their difference is 6. For example, if I'm talking about the difference between 15 and 10, wouldn't it be easier to write that as 15 minus 10 as opposed to 10 minus 15? You see? Their difference is 6, and we will express the difference as a positive quantity. The difference is 6. The difference is not negative 6. This is going to give us negative 5 if I were to put the small number first. The difference is positive 6. If the difference has to be positive 6, that tells me, that forces us to put the bigger number first. Bigger number minus the smaller number is going to give us a difference of 6. And because we are writing the bigger number here first, G goes first, let's switch the order here too. It will make a hell of a lot easier for us to deal with it. So greater number plus the smaller number is 30. It's the same thing. Whether we write G plus S or S plus G is the same thing. Now we have our two equations. Why are these two equations called simultaneous equation? Because they're called simultaneous equations because whatever value that we find for, listen carefully, they're called simultaneous equation because whatever value that we claim for G, whatever we say G equals to, and whatever we claim that S is going to equal to, will have to satisfy this equation and this equation at the same time, simultaneously. The value that we claim for S, whatever value that we claim for S down the road in this method, and whatever we claim the value for G down the road in this method, hopefully the same value as what we found from this first method, those values of S and G would have to satisfy both of this equation simultaneously at the same time. That's why I call simultaneous equation. So what do we do now? Well, we add the two equations. Let's add the second equation to the first equation. This is equation number 1, equation 1, This is our equation 2. And let's add the two equations. When we add the two equations, we get plus g and a plus d, that gives us 2g's. And here we have a negative s and a positive s. A negative s and a positive s will cancel each other out. And 30 plus 6 is going to give us 36. So 2g equals 36. I'm just going to bring the 2g closer so it's easier to see. 2g equals 36. Therefore, if you were to divide both sides by 2, g equals 18, which is exactly what we found here. G equals 18. The greater number equals 18. If greater number is 18, then the smaller number, equation number 1, how do you find the smaller number? By using either the equation number 1 or by using equation number 2, we can find the smaller number. So this equation number 1 implies, where's the equation number? Right here. Equation number 1 says g plus s equals 13. G is 18. So g plus s equals 13. Tells us that s must equal 30 minus g. 30 minus 18 or 12. Or we could have used the second equation. Or equation 2 implies we could have used first equation to solve for the small number, or we could use second equation. Second equation implies, here's the second equation, g minus s equals 6. G minus s equals 6. We have to solve for s. So bring the s to the other side, we get s equals g. I'm going to do it slowly here. Add s to both sides, and g equals s plus 6, subtract 6 from both sides, and we end up with s equals g minus 6. G minus 6. You can rewrite it here. I'm not going to show all the steps because it's getting too tedious. Second equation says g minus s equals 6. Solve this equation for s. I'm going to leave it up to you to solve this equation for s. And when you do that, you'll find that s equals g minus 6. G is 18 minus 6 gives us 12. As you can see, of course they both give us the same value, obviously. S equals 12. Either we use this equation or that equation. And g equals 18. So we could solve this question, we could solve this question two different ways, either using the simultaneous equation method that we just did, or the first method that we just did, where we define one variable in terms of the other, and therefore we have the entire problem in terms of one variable. So in our previous method, we defined the greater number in terms of the smaller number. If the difference is 6, then the greater number must be the small number plus 6. That's how we define the greater number. And then we had the entire work in just one variable. Here we have the entire solution in two variables, g and s, because we are defining as two distinct numbers. And because we have two distinct numbers, two different variables, we have to have two equations to solve two unknowns. And the two equations came from these two parts of the statement. The first part was that their sum is 30. Well, if their sum is 30, that's what this is. S plus 6, s plus g plus s. Their sum, greater number plus the smaller number, is 30. And the second equation came from this part. Their difference is 6. If their difference is 6, then the greater number minus the smaller number must be 6. That's all. And then you just add up the two equations and off you go. I will see you tomorrow on day number 187, where we will do some work and we will compare this work that we did today with the work that we're going to do tomorrow. Alright? See you then. Bye bye.